One must ask, as Rhaenyra surely did, how this had come to pass. We now know much and more that the Queen did not. It was Lord Larys Strong, the clubfoot, who spirited the king and his children out of the city when the Queen's dragons first appeared in the skies above King's Landing. So as not to pass through any of the city gates where they might be seen and remembered, Lord Larys led them out through some secret passage of Maegor the Cruel, of which only he had knowledge. It was Lord Larys who decreed the fugitives should part company as well, so that even if one were taken, the others might win free. Sir Rickard Thorne was commanded to deliver 2-year-old Prince Maelor to Lord Hightower. Princess Jaehaera, a sweet and simple girl of 6, was put in the charge of Sir Willis Fell, who swore to bring her safely to Storm's End. Neither knew where the other was bound, so neither could betray the other if captured. And only Larys himself knew that the king, stripped of his finery and clad in a salt-stained fisherman's cloak, had been concealed amongst a load of codfish on a fishing skiff in the care of a bastard knight with kin on Dragonstone. Once she learned the king was gone, the clubfoot reasoned, Rhaenyra was sure to send men hunting after him. But a boat leaves no trail upon the waves, and few hunters would ever think to look for Aegon on his sister's own island, in the very shadow of her stronghold. And there Aegon might have remained, hidden yet harmless, dulling his pain with wine and hiding his burned scars beneath a heavy cloak, had Sunfire not made his way to Dragonstone. We may ask what drew him back to the Dragonmont, for many have. Was the wounded dragon, with his half-healed broken wing, driven by some primal instinct to return to his birthplace, the smoking mountain where he had emerged from his egg? Or did he somehow sense the presence of King Aegon on the island, across long leagues and stormy seas, and fly there to rejoin his rider? Some go so far as to suggest that Sunfire sensed Aegon's desperate need. But who can presume to know the heart of a dragon? After Lord Wallace Mouton's ill-fated attack drove him from the field of Ashen Bone outside Rook's Rest, history loses sight of Sunfire for more than half a year. Certain tales told in the halls of the Crabs and Bruins suggest the dragon may have taken refuge in the dark piney woods and caves of Crackclaw Point for some of that time. Though his torn wing had bended enough for him to fly, it had healed at an ugly angle and remained weak. Sunfire could no longer soar, not remain in the air for long, but must needs struggle to fly even short distances. Yet somehow he had crossed the waters of Blackwater Bay, for it was Sunfire that the sailors on the Nassaria had seen attacking Grey Ghost. Sir Robert Quince had blamed the cannibal, but Tom Tangletongue, a stammerer who heard more than he said, had plied the Volantines with ale, making note of all the times they mentioned the attacker's golden scales. The cannibal, as he knew well, was black as coal, and so the 2 Toms and their cousins, a half-truth, as only Sir Marston shared their blood, being the bastard son of Tom Tanglebeard's sister by the knight who took her maidenhead, set sail in their small boat to seek out Grey Ghost's killer. The burned king and the maimed dragon each found new purpose in the other. From a hidden lair on the desolate eastern slopes of the Dragonmont, Aegon ventured forth each day at dawn, taking to the sky again for the first time since Rook's Rest, whilst the 2 Toms and their cousin Marston Waters returned to the other side of the island to seek out men willing to help them take the castle. Even on Dragonstone, long Queen Rhaenyra's seat and stronghold, they found many who misliked the Queen for reasons both good and ill. Some grieved for brothers, sons, and fathers slain during the sowing or during the Battle of the Gullet. Some hoped for plunder or advancement, whilst others believed a son must come before a daughter, giving Aegon the better claim. The Queen had taken her best men with her to King's Landing. On its island, protected by the sea snake's ships and its high Valyrian walls, Dragonstone seemed unassailable, so the garrison her grace left to defend it was small, made up largely of men judged to be of little other use, greybeards and green boys, the halt and slow and crippled, men recovering from wounds, men of doubtful loyalty, men suspected of cowardice. Over them Rhaenyra placed Sir Robert Quince, an able man grown old and fat. Quince was a steadfast supporter of the Queen, all agree, but some of the men under him were less leal, harbouring certain resentments and grudges for old wrongs real or imagined. Prominent amongst them was Sir Alfred Broom. Broom proved more than willing to betray his queen in return for a promise of lordship, lands, and gold should Aegon II regain the throne. His long service with the garrison allowed him to advise the king's men on Dragonstone's strengths and weaknesses, which guards could be bribed or won over, and which must needs be killed or imprisoned. When it came, the fall of Dragonstone took less than an hour. Men traduced by Broom opened a postern gate during the hour of ghosts to allow Sir Marston Waters, Tom Tangletongue, and their men to slip into the castle unobserved. While one band seized the armory and another took Dragonstone's leal guardsmen and master-at-arms into custody, Sir Marston surprised Maester Honeymore in his rookery, so no word of the attack might escape by Raven. Sir Alfred himself led the men who burst into the castellan's chambers to surprise Sir Robert Quince. As Quince struggled to rise from his bed, Broom drove a spear into his huge pale belly, the thrust delivered with such force that the spear went out Sir Robert's back, through the feather bed and straw mattress, and into the floor beneath. Only in one respect did the plan go awry. As Tom Tangletongue and his ruffians smashed down the door of Lady Baela's bedchamber to take her prisoner, the girl slipped out her window, scrambling across rooftops and down walls until she reached the yard. The king's men had taken care to send guards to secure the stable where the castle dragons had been kept, but Baela had grown up in Dragonstone and knew ways in and out that they did not. By the time her pursuers caught up with her, she had already loosed Moondancer's chains and strapped a saddle onto her. So it came to pass that when King Aegon II flew Sunfire over Dragonman's smoking peak and made his descent, expecting to make a triumphant entrance into a castle safely in the hands of his own men, with the Queen's loyalists slain or captured, up to meet him rose Baela Targaryen, Prince Daemon's daughter by the Lady Laena, and fearless as her father. Moondancer was a young dragon, pale green with horns and crest and wing bones of pearl. Aside from her great wings, she was no larger than a warhorse and weighed less. She was very quick, however, and Sunfire, though much larger, still struggled with a malformed wing, and had taken fresh wounds from Grey Ghost. They met amidst the darkness that comes before the dawn, shadows in the sky lighting the night with their fires. Moondancer eluded Sunfire's flames, eluded his jaws, darted beneath his grasping claws, then came around and raked the larger dragon from above, opening a long smoking wound down his back and tearing at his injured wing. Watchers below said that Sunfire lurched drunkenly in the air, fighting to stay aloft, whilst Moondancer turned and came back at him, spitting fire. Sunfire answered with a furnace blast of golden flame so bright it lit the yard below like a second sun, a blast that took Moondancer full in the eyes. Like as not, the young dragon was blinded in that instant, yet still she flew on, slamming into Sunfire in a tangle of wings and claws. As they fell, Moondancer struck at Sunfire's neck repeatedly, tearing out mouthfuls of flesh, whilst the elder dragon sank his claws into her underbelly. Robed in fire and smoke, blind and bleeding, Moondancer's wings beat desperately as she tried to break away, but all her efforts did was slow their fall. The watchers in the yard scrambled for safety as the dragon slammed into the hard stone, still fighting. On the ground, Moondancer's quickness proved of little use against Sunfire's size and weight. The green dragon soon lay still. The golden dragon screamed his victory and tried to rise again, only to collapse back to the ground with hot blood pouring from his wounds. King Aegon had leapt from the saddle when the dragons were still 20 feet from the ground, shattering both legs. Lady Baela stayed with Moondancer all the way down. Burned and battered, the girl still found the strength to undo her saddle chains and crawl away as her dragon coiled in her final death throes. When Alfred Broom drew his sword to slay her, Marston Waters wrenched the blade from his hand. Tom Tangletongue carried her to the maester. Thus did King Aegon II win the ancestral seat of House Targaryen, but the price he paid for it was dire. Sunfire would never fly again. He remained in the yard where he had fallen, feeding on the carcass of Moondancer and later on sheep slaughtered for him by the garrison. and Aegon II lived the rest of his life in great pain, though to his honour this time his grace refused the milk of the poppy. "I shall not walk that road again," he said. Not long after, as the king lay in the stone drum's great hall, his broken legs bound and splintered, the first of Queen Rhaenyra's ravens arrived from Duskendale. When Aegon learned that his half-sister would be returning on the Violand, he commanded Sir Alfred Broom to prepare a suitable welcome for her homecoming. All of this is known to us now. None of this was known to the Queen when she stepped ashore into her brother's trap.